Spliff da Obi Nagan. Welcome to podcast number 128. Now, if my technology skills have worked, there was no music at the beginning of this podcast. Now, I've had split opinions on the music. A lot of people said, God, this is brilliant, fantastic. Put some more bits on of your groups over the years and everything. And then I've had others, like my dear friend Al Roberts. He said, that blooming music. He said, when I do my podcast, he said, I don't want that music at the beginning and end. And then we was up St. Tootie Church this week for Tyrrell's funeral, and the Melvoice Choir from Wadebridge, they were singing. And Bob Wynne come in and he said, get rid of that blooming music at the beginning. He said, I go to think now, have I heard this podcast or no? And I go to play it, and every time I got to sit through that music before I hear you say, welcome to podcast number whatever. So he said, and I can't fast forward it. So I thought, actually, you have got a point there, really. So I thought, as a compromise, if I get this right, there's no music to be at the beginning, but I'll still keep our group at the end and see how that goes. So, hopefully that's what should have happened this week. I did actually put a photo on my Facebook page of the Chipmunks, the group we was in. I think it was the final lineup before we split up. And I was trawling through to find this photo of Peter Hawke on his horse, which I did put up last week, what Sue was talking about. And I found all these photos, so I did put one on my Facebook page. And it was the last lineup, which was Dave Ralston on drums, myself on guitar and singing, Gary Burney, then gone over to bass, and we brought Mark Armstrong in on keyboards. And we did this photo shoot because I think it was TSW at the time. I don't know if you can remember the station, TV station, TSW, Television Southwest. And they was doing a competition for local groups. And you had to send in 2 songs. One which would be a cover version and one which you'd written yourselves. So we actually sent in, because our first album we did, Chipmunks or Go, one side was all covers and the other side was all songs that I'd written myself. So we sent in both of they, and we got pretty close. The final, they had 6 groups televised battling it out. And we got through to the penultimate round before they said, sorry, you haven't made it to the final TV bit. So we was that close. But I thought I'd put that photo on, and I had some lovely response from people. You know, brought back a lot of memories. So I might put some music on here in the future, like partway through. But I promise you, Bob, 'twon't be at the beginning. So, since I spoke to you last, I have actually been abroad. Well, when I say that, I mean I've been up to England. And we had a funeral last Friday morning, and then I had the afternoon off, and we went way up north, Bristol. Because Molly, one of our childs, she was moving. So she said, can he come on up and help me move? Which we did. And she's only moved about, half a mile away from where she was. She was in a shared house before. And now she's managed to get a little flat earner met. And 'tis in an area called Clifton. I don't know if you know it or no, but 'tis a lovely little area, really. She lived in Bath before, and it's very similar to Bath. All the buildings and everything. So that's what we did. We went up on Friday, and we come home on Sunday, which was brilliant to see her. Obviously, I didn't get much work done. I did manage to go over work for a couple of hours late afternoon on Sunday when I come back. But apart from that, my trip abroad, it went well. Well, when I say that, I mean, it did go well. But Beth booked the hotel in Berkeley Square there in the Clifton area. Lovely little place. I mean, I Googled, and there's houses a few doors up that went on the market and was sold a couple of years ago for like £2 million. They're these real old terraced townhouses, would you call them? And like there's 5 stories. And Beth booked this hotel room, and it said in the description it was cozy. Well, that was a proper description, I tell you. It was right up in the attic, and we got up there, and there wasn't a lot of room, really. It was all right. It was lovely. And but we noticed there was only one towel and everything. So Beth, when we went down reception, she just said, "Oh, could he give us another towel or no?" And the woman looked at her and she said, "You in room 39, ain't he?" So she said, "Yeah." So she said, "Well, that's only meant to be single occupancy." But she said, "I'll give you another towel," because I had a double bed there and everything. So, of course, later on that day, Beth did look on the booking form, and there it does say double room, but then underneath in brackets, single occupancy, not expected, suggested or something like that. So it was cozy. I mean, we weren't there that much anyway because we was out and about. But there, that was interesting, I tell you. But we was in Berkeley Square. There was loads of birds, but we didn't hear any nightingales at all. As far as me working week have gone this week, I've pretty much lived in Glyn Valley, I think. We've had a very busy week indeed, very busy. And apart from Glyn Valley, like, for example, Peter's funeral there on Monday was one of them. We was up St. Toody, like I mentioned earlier, for Tyrrell's funeral, which was packed. Brilliant. We had put extra chairs out. We got everybody seated, which was good. But that was packed. And then Wednesday, we was in Bodmin Church, St. Petrock's there for Joan's funeral. And it was lovely to see so many familiar faces. Because like Father grew up in Bodmin. And we've got to know so many people there. We still got relatives there in Bodmin. In fact, we have got one less relative in Bodmin. But I will talk about him in a couple of weeks' time after we've had his funeral. Because he was a real character. But I won't talk about him now. I like to do things after the funeral. But yeah, it was a lovely service there for Joan. And then in the afternoon, we was back Glyn Valley for Malcolm's funeral. And what a character he was. From out, Trebetherick way. He was, lived there for many years, St. Minver area and everything. Lived a bit of time early on, I think, in Wadebridge as well. But that was packed again. People stood outside and everything. And he was a real character. He's somebody that I'm going to miss. He always used to pull me leg. But say all went well there. And then today we had Dave's funeral. And Dave was, again, we did put the PA system out today because we were St. Izzy Church and we knew there'd be people outside. And there was. I mean, it was brilliant. Thankfully, it didn't rain. It was a bit blowy, but it didn't rain. And we had a fire brigade guard of honour, standard bearer. I did put a video on Facebook this evening on the RJ Bray page because from the house to the church, it was led by the fire engine and a tractor, which was the two loves, really, of Dave's life. So that was good. And then he was buried back here in Eglisale, facing the quarry that his namesake, Sid Jewell, used to run his business from decades ago. And I know we've mentioned Sid Jewell's business before. John Moon used to work there, for example. And they had the quarry there. I mean, it is really called Kessel Quarry over Slades Bridge. But a lot of people, perhaps not so much the younger generation, but my generation and older, they always call it Jewell's Quarry. Because that's where Sidney Jewell run his business from. And I think, it was a massive organisation. I think they employed over 100 men at one stage. So Dave is back home, looking back towards the quarry. Right, well, that's enough of me for now. We'll now go over to our second part of our interview with Sue. Again, very well received last week. I've had brilliant comments when I've been out and about this week. Really have. And I'm sure you'll enjoy this part just as much as part one. So I'll hand over to Sue now and I'll speak to her directly with our word of the week, etc. So here we go.
Yeah, Peter was actually brought up out St. Wen.
Yeah.
Out at Treliver Farm at St. Wen.
Oh, yeah.
And he came into Wadebridge. They live with his gran and granddad. And he came into Wadebridge when he was 9.
Yeah.
And he was one of the first ones to move into one of the houses at Queen's Park.
All right, yeah.
And he lived there and then until he got married. When I was learning to drive, he said to me, we'll go out up around St. Column Downs today. So that we go. Ended up going up Black Hay Hill.
Oh.
And he said to me, right, stop. stopped in the middle of it. I take her away. I went all that way up the hill going stutter. By the time I got to the top, I could take off.
Yeah, exactly. It all starts with sus.
Yeah. He said to me when he was a child, they was on a school trip and the bus ran away going down this hill. The brakes came out and the bus go. And he said they got to the bottom and they were all given, an ice cream van came along and they gave them all ice creams. And he never liked ice cream after that. He said he really didn't like ice cream after that. When I was working in Vernon Caves, we used to get a little chap come in called Dickie Wardle.
Oh, yes.
And he was, those of you who don't know, he was a disabled man and he used to go around the shops doing things like that. And Mr. Cave always said he was a remittance man. And he always said that was a man that was of a good family. Yeah. But because he was disabled, the family didn't want him, so he was down here. And him, and on the end there was the shop, Mr. Burridge's jeweller's shop.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And when I started there to work when I was 15, I was always Susan. As soon as I got married, I was Mrs. Hawke. Oh. And I was always Mrs. Hawke after that to both of them. It's brilliant. It's the way they were back then. Totally different. Yeah, as I said, Peter and I went to live in Fernie Road. And I remember one night we went out somewhere. Dave and Brent Truscott was living upstairs then. And we'd gone out somewhere. I don't know what we'd doing, but Peter had a skimful. Yeah. And when he got home, he was sick over the side of our car. Oh. So I said, you go out and clean that up. So he goes out with a bucket and comes back in. Next morning I went out and Dave said to me, do you know why my car's the only one in the road that's wet? Oh, no. Yes, he missed our car completely. Oh, brilliant. Yeah. Yeah, just things you used to do. Anyway, we built the bungalow up there. I used to go up and labour and clean up and do all sorts. We literally built it block by block. And we moved in on the 17th of December, 1972. Okay. We had, the lounge was done. I wouldn't move in until I had a carpet in the lounge and a decent settee to sit on. One bedroom was done in the kitchen and bathroom, and that was all that was done. The other two bedrooms and the rest of it was in a bit of a state. In fact, the smallest bedroom, we didn't have any sheds or anything outside, so there was steps and buckets of paint. And of course, back then it was night stores and coal fires, so we had coal and logs and all in there for a little while. That summer, Peter built the garage, so then it all went out into the garage, so life was a little bit easier then. Sasha was born... What is her birthday this week? 13th of February 1974. Yeah. And by that time, the bungalow was more or less up and running. And of course, back in those days, you didn't go out to work. You had to finish work. Right, and I wasn't all that well in the pregnancy. I had awful high blood pressure, so I was in hospital more than I was out. But she came along, a little thing at £4.12, a little tiny little thing she was. But we carried on up there. Mum came up and looked after me for a little while because my dad had died by that time. Dad died in 1970. Right. And Mum moved from Trinant House then, and she went over to live over Eggsale, the last little row of cottages before the church. She lived in there then. And we used to go over there quite a bit. I used to put Sasha in the pram and walk over there. From Meadowhead over to there was a fair little step. Yeah, exactly. And then we'd go out Trelawney, or Tun Trelawney, then it was Dannins then. And we'd go out there and buy some plants or something, and then I'd walk back to Mum's place, and then I'd walk home. I was quite fit in those days. Yeah. And then a couple of years later, Lucy was born. Yeah. And Mum came up again. She was born in 76, which was the hottest summer for 300 years. Yeah. 2 days after she was born, it started raining. Oh. But and again, I used to put Sash on the pram, and I'd walk over to see Mum and walk back again. And so life goes on. Peter started working for him. Well, he started working for his father first. Toby Chapman. Toby, yeah. Yeah, he started working with him to begin with, and they got on surprisingly well. I didn't think they would get on quite so well, to be honest, but they got on quite so well. And his mum and dad then had moved from Queen's Park, and they'd gone up to live with his gran and granddad, who lived up in Cherrybryn. Yeah. Up the top of Gonville Hill. That's what I remember. And they'd gone up there to live. Yeah. Gran died not long after they went up there. Right. And then Peter's father died. I think Sasha was 7 when Peter's father died. He died very suddenly. And Gran grandpa then was 93 or 4. And he went into the home down the bottom of Fernie Road. Who was it that run it? You go up Fernie Road.
Yeah.
There's the houses that face down the road. And then there's the first lot of houses, and there's a turning into the fire station. Then there's another set of houses, and then it's the next one after the next.
On the right. Oh,
it was Michael and
Annette Clement.
Annette, that's right. Yeah. Yes, yeah. He went in up there.
Yeah.
And he loved it up there. He really did love it up there. And he was up there for 4 or 5 years. He was 8 weeks off his 100th birthday when he died, dear of him. Yeah. Yeah. So
because I remember Peter vividly, because he used to wear a woolly hat.
That's right. Always had his woolly hat on.
I remember because we used to go down social club a lot.
That's right.
Well. We used to see Peter down social club.
Yeah, he'd go down there. He worked, and he worked. He'd be gone out of the house before 8 a.m, and in the summer he'd be back again at 9 o'clock. And he did work hard, dear. I sometimes wonder whether he worked too hard. And it didn't work. But then there you are. It's easy to be looking back, and you know. Easy to be wise in hindsight, as they say.
Yeah. So, just jumping back a bit then.
Yeah.
When you was like comprehensive, who was the headmaster back then?
Well, the headmaster back then was Mr. Dobson.
Oh, was he quite strict?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And his wife was the secretary, and they had this little dog that used to run around. But nobody ever went in the front door.
Right.
We always had to go out around the back into the playground at the back.
I see.
And there was dots of paint on the playground. And for the first month, perhaps, when you first went up there, there was the numbers of the rooms that these dots, but it was only there for a month, and then you had to remember which one you went to.
I see.
Yeah. And when we went up there, nobody had ever been inside the gate until they went there on the day they started. There was none of these induction weeks or anything like that. You started. You started. And I remember I walked out from Trinant. You could go across the fields underneath what's the industrial estate now. There was a footpath there. That's right, yeah. And I walked across that footpath and I met Pam Parkin. And we walked in together, both nervous as kittens. Yeah. And as I say, we had to find which rooms we was in and all this. But we was always kept out in the playground. Never went inside the building until they rung the bell to go in. None of this. I remember the first time I went out there with Charlie and Molly, and they went in the front door. I thought, for goodness sake, what are you doing? Not allowed to go in there. But they run a very, very strict ship, Mr. and Mrs. Dobson. And you always had to have your beret and your cap. And if you was outside of school without your beret and your cap on, if you was in school uniform, you was in trouble. Yeah. You was in big trouble. As I say, I enjoyed school, and I ended up playing hockey for the school team and netball for the school team. Yeah, and we used to go off Saturday mornings in the bus, and we went all over the place. And I don't know if you know much about hockey, but you're not supposed to hit the hockey ball above the height of your knee.
Right, yeah.
And one day somebody did a foul shot. He wouldn't have counted if he'd gone in, but instinct, I put my hand out like that, and the hockey ball smashed.
Oh, no. Oh. Oh, that's where Molly gets it from.
Oh, well, yes. My dad, actually, going back to my dad, he was a good footballer.
Was he?
And he was actually picked to play for Cornwall.
Was he?
But at that particular time, he was ill. Oh, no, he'd been injured, and he couldn't play when he was supposed to play. And when I was about 3, he stopped playing because he was finding that injuries were taking too long to get over, and he couldn't sort of play on Saturday and get over the injury on Sunday and go to work on Monday, so he had to give up. And we used to go up to the football ground on Saturday afternoons and watch the football match. And he would explain to me that the men in the red shirts had to get the ball from the men in the blue shirts, and and little 3-4-year-old me one day, sometimes somebody says something and the room goes completely silent. There was a lot of people there, and everything went silent, and this little 3-4-year-old voice piped up, "Why don't they just have a ball each?"
Oh, brilliant.
Yeah. Down at the Weybridge Girls' School, the teacher down there was Mrs. Crouch. And she was another one. I mean, it was discipline all the way down there. And when I started, I had Mrs. Fisher was my first teacher. Ivan Fisher's wife.
Oh, yeah.
She was my first teacher.
Yeah.
And then there was Miss Hawken. And then we had there was the two Mrs. Owens. I don't know if you can remember the two Mr. Owens that was at Weybridge Comprehensive.
Johnny Owen.
John Owen. And
yeah.
there was, what was the other one called? John was the metalwork teacher.
That's right.
And the other one was the gardening teacher.
Yeah.
And both their wives worked in the schools down there.
Yeah.
So there was those two. There was a Mrs. Goodwin who came from Camelford. She came down. She was sort of first in the big girls, and she was the first in there. And then there was a Mrs. Henwood, and she lived up West Hill.
That's right.
She was a lovely teacher.
Yeah.
And then there was Miss Beckingham, and she came up
yeah.
from Padstow on the train, and she would take us in the summer on the top two classes on a Wednesday afternoon. We would go down to Padstow on the train, and we would walk out to the swimming pool.
Oh, yeah.
And we would all learn to swim out there, and then we'd come back on the train. By this time, I could swim because Dad made sure I could swim by the time I was about 6, being in and going out surfing and everything. I had to learn to swim, but I still went. And we'd come back, and she would put us on the train.
Yeah.
And we would come home on our own.
Yeah.
Wouldn't do that with kids these days, would you? No.
No.
But it was brilliant fun. It was really nice fun down there. And I enjoyed my school years, really, to be honest.
Yeah, good.
And coming along Eccleston Road, as I said before, there was no cars or anything. It was a totally different world. Totally different world. But there you are. Yeah. And when I went down to Caves to work, I'd always done handicraft, sewing, knitting, and that. I knitted my first baby cardigan when I was 6.
Right.
And I made my first garment for myself when I was 9.
God.
Cass' mother, Auntie Mary, she was a great sewer, and she used to help me. And if Mum would sew, and that she would patch jeans because she had to, and turn up jeans because she had to, but to anything else she didn't want to do. But Auntie Mary helped me, and I did quite a bit of sewing, and I still do, as you know. I still do a lot. But I started when I was quite young.
Yeah, brilliant.
Yeah. Dad actually worked for Cornwall Farmers when I was a little girl.
Right.
And I used to go down with him on a Saturday morning and help him clean the lorry. I mean, the wheels was bigger than me, but I used to help him.
Yeah.
And then he went to work for the electricity board.
Yeah.
And I remember Mum saying that when he went to work there, he was bringing up, this would have been, I think he went to work there in 1951.
Was that up in Bodmin?
No, he was down the bottom of Gonvina Hill. You know where Spring Gardens is?
Yeah,
that next place. That was what they called Sweb Old Works.
Oh,
and he was working out of there. And I remember Mum saying he was actually bringing home £5 a week. She said, I thought I was made. We had £5 a week coming in the house. And again, we used to go down there and help him clean the lorries and things like that. And occasionally he would have to do something on a Saturday, go and collect something, and I'd sit up in the lorry with him. And then he went into Bodmin to work, and he used to bring the lorry home. And because there were several men that worked here in Wadebridge, so they used to come home, and he'd bring the lorry home up to Treenant.
Yeah.
And when I passed my driving test, he said to me, go on the maid, out and move the lorry. So I climbs up in this blooming great lorry. I stood on the clutch with both feet, and I couldn't put it in. And he was standing there laughing, of course, because he knew very well I wouldn't be able to drive. And he was still there. He carried on working there until he died.
Did he?
Yeah. Mum used to work for Phillips's over Badeve.
Badeve, yeah.
She started out on Gonvina Hill. They used to live in Gonvina Hill at one time. She started working out there for them. And then she went down, they moved down to the bungalow on the corner of Badeve there, Newlands, the bungalow.
Yeah, I know.
And Mum went down there to work, and she stayed there until Dad was taken ill and she had to give up work.
Yeah.
So then she didn't work again after that.
No.
I don't suppose she needed to be honest. I don't know that she had the heart. Mum was lost when Dad died. They was a pair.
Yeah, exactly.
They really was a pair.
Yeah.
And Mum wasn't very old. Mum was only, what was she? She wouldn't. I think she was about 51 when Dad died.
Yeah.
So, there's no age. So
very young.
Yeah. So she went on there. I followed in her footsteps, losing my husband when I was quite young. But
exactly.
That's how life goes, isn't it?
It is.
Yeah, that's life.
Yeah.
That's life.
Well, thank you, Sue. I think we'll finish there for this week. On a sad note, really, I say, dear Peter, he did pass away so young. He's somebody that I can remember vividly. Like I think I said, maybe in last week's episode, always remember him with his woolly hat on. But I say more from Sue next week. including memories of Trinant again and Wadebridge as well, shops and everything. I'm sure you'll love it. Now, for me Cornish word of the week, I thought, as I was talking back when we was up in the hotel there in Bristol and we was up in the attic, I thought perhaps I'll use the word for attic in Cornish, which is soler. Soler. And for me Cornish dialect, again, this is another one from Sue. She gave me one last week and I got another one this week. And this is if something is smelling damp or musty or something like that, the word is fausty. Fausty. So that's me dialect for this week. So thank you again for that, Sue. That was proper. Right, well, I'll leave you now and then I'll speak to you again next week. And I hope you have a good week. There should be a bit of music at the end now, if I got it right. But wish you well. Do Guinness. Cardo Bisfican.